And when we see paradoxes and we start to notice them, what that means is that we're seeing a paradigm shift in our condition.
Hello and welcome to Change and the Market, your mindful guide to the ever-changing real estate world. My name is Peyton Beck. I'm here at Masiello HQ, and with me, as always, is our resident real estate expert, CEO, author, and discount firework enthusiast, Chris Masiello. Chris, how are you today?
Good, Peyton. Good to be with you. Good to be with our community.
Yeah, I know you're really into fireworks, and with the 4th being yesterday, because we record on Wednesdays, I just felt like that was important to point out. But Chris, what are we talking about today?
I hope everybody had a good 4th, and hope everybody got a chance to read my Mindful Monday, talking about our founding fathers. It's certainly a great read. So Thanks for sending that out. Appreciate it. I want to talk today really about pricing. So last week we talked about demographics and how demographics are impacting the market. And I think maybe in the next few weeks we can start to do some microdosing into the markets themselves, right? And so one of them that I think next as we talk about is pricing. So, with this kind of correction, so to speak, with interest rates going up, we went from kind of meteoric appreciation in that 15 to 20% annual appreciation rates, down to things that are somewhat more sustainable, somewhere in the low single digits to high single digits. And I just kind of put it into perspective. In of itself, a market that's appreciating, let's say 3 to 5% is really good. Now, 3 to 5% is significantly different than 15 to 20%. 15 to 20% appreciation is not sustainable. 3 to 5% is very sustainable. And so there is a lot of forecasting at kind of the beginning of this cycle, which now we kind of understand it as really being more of a systemic shift in housing, that we're going to see price corrections. And that's largely not been the case. And so Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Federal Reserve, organizations like Goldman Sachs, different investment houses, they originally called for some price corrections. And it hasn't borne out that way. And we live in this paradox now of lower unit sales, but still appreciating value. And that is truly a paradox. We'll talk about paradoxes in a second. And so I think that we can really foresee a continuation of modest appreciation over time. And now there'll be some markets, of course, that might be negatively impacted, but those are going to be really, I think, isolated markets, like the Northeast, New England in particular, continues to see appreciation. Again, very typical paradox now that we're seeing is, unit sales down, but sales prices continuing to edge up. But that's the case in New Hampshire. Sales prices are up a little bit over 3%. And so I think from a pricing advice for people, agents, sellers, that I would really be careful about not overpricing. There is some premium in the market, not a lot though. And so I think people are wise to just price to what we believe the market to be. And then if there's a greater premium to be had through maybe multiple offers or things like that, let that happen organically. We are still seeing multiple offers, right? Which does impact price by assigning a premium to the property, but let that happen organically. I think also the whole conversation about our housing price is going to adjust downward. I just don't see it because of what we talked about. And I was reading some of the forecasts from Fannie Mae, and they were saying the same thing. They were saying, well, because of the demographics, that the housing pricing has been very resilient, and it's going to continue to be resilient. So I think this is all good, but to me it felt like it needed, I think, a little bit of microdosing on talking about pricing and what the expectations should be in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense as a homeowner. Well, we're both homeowners, but it's the idea of it going back, prices adjusting, and me, I just bought this house recently. Obviously, there's negative connotation to that, and that would be not a great sitch. I'd be pretty disappointed. So it's definitely something we want to keep at the forefront of our minds, as we're going through things. I mean, if they did adjust, like what would that look like? Obviously, we don't think that would be, but when we're having discussions with people who are saying, what about this adjustment? Like, what do we say, or how do we handle that?
Yeah. Some of the original forecasts, as we started to kind of move into this shift that we're in. And I think probably for points of clarification, a cycle is short duration. Okay, when you're in a systemic shift, it's longer. And I think, and so the paradigms that we're seeing now are because we're really in a systemic shift in housing, away from short cycles. We used to have 2, 3, 4 year cycles. This is not a 2 or 3 or 4 year cycle. This is probably 10. That's probably a stretch for a lot of people to think about a cycle, because we've been so used to short cycles. But seeing these housing conditions, if you think about it for a second, 90% of all mortgages are below 4%. The average homeowner is staying in their house, somewhere from 9 to 11 years. I mean, again, the demographics are, with the different demographic groups, home building is off 50% in the last 15 years. So you add all that up, and then that really bodes well for continued appreciation and housing as a positive investment. Anytime there's less of something, it is of more value.
So Chris, when we're talking about kind of a paradigm shift and we're talking about, finding these new cycles, I mean, how do we apply that to our everyday?
I think paradox is a good concept to introduce in this case, because right now, if we take housing, or we can take a lot of things, but right now we'll just talk about housing. Housing is in a total paradox, where lower unit sales, higher interest rates, and we still have appreciation. That's a total paradox to what we're used to. And so what I'd like to introduce is just the concept of understanding that when we see paradoxes, that we have to pay attention to them. Now, they can be in our personal lives too. They can be really anywhere, okay? And when we see paradoxes and we start to notice them, what that means is that we're seeing a paradigm shift in our condition. And, paradoxes are kind of funny because it's a word or concept that we don't use a lot.
Sounds like science fiction.
It does. I was just going to say that. It seems all like it's relegated to the world of science somehow. Mm-hmm. Right. Or like you said, some sci-fi show. However, life is full of paradoxes. And the paradoxes, once we start to notice them, we should be paying attention to them, because nothing is a coincidence. Nothing. A coincidence is just some convenient concept that we were introduced to as children, to explain things that we don't want to spend a lot of time on. But paradoxes, though, lead to systemic change, which leads to paradigm shifts, and that's what we're seeing. So I just throw that out there to kind of be people to be aware of. I think in this case we could talk about housing, where we're seeing a lot of paradoxes, but those are signaling us to understand that we're in a different period now, where we're going to have different realities. And I think that's, whether it's in business or personal, once we start noticing the paradoxes, that's the primer to understand that we're in a different time period.
Very cool. Thank you, Chris, for that awesome advice and those thoughts. We'll wrap up the show here and say thank you to all of you guys for watching. I encourage you to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching. As always, we'll close out and say, don't forget about 2-for-1 sales at your local fireworks station and all that good jazz, because right now is the time to get them. You'll get a deal. Save them for next year. It's going to be great. Right, Chris?
That's right.
Yeah, firework enthusiast. Very, very cool. All right, well. And that's that. See you guys.
Right. See you guys. Take care. Thanks, Peyton.
Well, very cool. Thank you, Chris, for that awesome advice. And as always, we'll Okay.